Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and good afternoon to everyone out there. Yes, indeed, Mr. Kambaza has given us a brief background of inflation. And indeed, it has a great impact in the construction industry, especially for the consultants, beginning with the consultants who give or prepare estimates at all stages before going on site for actual construction. Let me start by giving a background of what is, why do we estimate, why do we prepare cost estimates, and what are construction estimates. It is a process of identifying and in totality the cost of a construction project, and this includes resources, cost of resources like labor, materials, and also indirect costs like administration and legal fees. Why do we budget, or why do we prepare cost estimates? It is for budgeting purpose. I know most of the people out there are quantity surveyors. I'm not here to lecture you on this, but as a reminder, it is crucial. It is a crucial tool for budgeting purpose, planning, and managing projects, managing project finances, ensuring the project stays within the allocated budget. Now, with the background of having inflation, and we are one of the countries impacted by this inflation. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes, okay. We can hear you.
I proceed. So it is very critical that consultants, or whether it's a firm or individual consultant, we have to bear in mind that by giving our clients a half-baked cost estimation, it means we have failed as professionals. You know, inflation has a direct impact on construction cost estimation, as it drives up the cost of materials, labor, and fuel. In a nutshell, it impacts all the resources in the construction industry. Therefore, when doing the estimates, whether budget estimates, which are the initial budget, or detailed budget estimates or detailed estimates, and also cost estimates during construction period, we must account for inflation at all cost. We need to consider both general and specific inflation rates. Piers Kambaza has just said that recently. We have specific construction inflation rates. These are attached to materials, labor, and resources, other resources. And we have general inflation, and this is for other materials like foodstuff and the like. But for in the construction industry, we are more concerned with the impact of the specific indices or specific inflation, which affects the construction resources inputs. Therefore, when estimating, we must consider the behavior of the inflation on these specific resources. What should we do? We normally, as consultants, focus, apart from estimating the actual inputs like resources and the other administrative costs, we have to advise on the actual impact or projected impact of inflation. By focusing this future cost increase because of the inflation, it means we are going to have an accurate cost estimation. And it will be comfortable to go to the client and say, yes, this is the cost estimation for a professional, from a professional expert. Now, how do we include these tools, or how do we include these risks in our estimation? Mind you, the contingency sum on its own, the one we use to include in the estimation, we call it contingency sum. If you read our documents, each and every document, it has a write-up saying the contingency is for design change and to be used under the directive or instruction of the project manager. But this is not enough. We have to check what are the cost risks that might come in our way before going for on site and during construction. Therefore, we have to focus. What are the risks? The risks can be due to inflation, and the risks can be due to devaluation. These two must be given their own risk cost allocation over and above the general contingency sum, which is there to cater for design changes. And I have to say right now that we have to differentiate between inflation and devaluation. That's why I'm saying we must allocate cost risks for inflation and cost risks for devaluation, because devaluation can bring inflation, not the other way around. How do we incorporate these cost risk allocations? We can focus the cost implication of resources cost changes by looking at the historical data. Once we have compiled everything, labor, all the resources, all the administrative costs, we must sit back and say, what would be the risks over and above this? What has been the history of other cost increase due to inflation and due to devaluation? Historical data can be analyzed by past construction costs and adjust them to future prices. We can do this by using indices. Also, we can use some software and AI tools. This is not my area of expertise, but I know there are so many models that can help us to predict future increase due to inflation. Therefore, once we have included all the risks, for example, 10% for contingency sum as our general contingency sum for design change, we have to include, we normally, on our part, some of us, we include another percentage for projected devaluation, another percentage for possible inflation. The overall cost is now what is called good estimated cost. Here are some hints on the resources allocation and also adjustment of inflation. We must integrate inflation into your budget by calculating all the labor and materials and equipment costs, and over and above the total inflation cost and devaluation cost. Thereafter, we must regularly reevaluate. If we included this at preliminary budget estimate, when doing detailed estimate, we have also to consider and review the same. We have to also check with project project duration. For us to estimate the cost risks of inflation and devaluation, we have to project our costs based on the duration of the project. We have also to anticipate some delays. I think all of us here know very well that most projects are delayed. The reasons depend on each and every project scenarios. So once we have projected the risks of inflation and devaluation, we should incorporate possible delays that can.
Is the time you should be wrapping up?
Yes, I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
Now, the conclusion is that when estimating or doing estimation, let us incorporate the risks of devaluation and inflation. The challenge here is that most of the clients do not differentiate these two, inflation and devaluation. They think that once they have converted some, for example, donor-funded projects, once they have converted the cost estimate or the contract into a dollar or foreign currency, it means they have cushioned everything. But it is to the contrary, because devaluation behaves on its own way and inflation behaves on its own way as well. To sum up, we must consider potential inflation behavior on materials, on labor, on equipment, administrative and indirect costs, so that whatever we are projecting as contingencies are able to take care of the budgeted expenditure as well as planning for future development. Each and every project, it has to give us a lesson. That's why we are supposed to have historical data for future projections. For your first question, I think I have to stop there. Thank you.